We have Anna Kasparian. She's one of the hosts at Young Turks, and she recently tweeted out how she wants to be considered a woman, not a birthing person or any other term that is supposedly politically correct. And of course, she got flamed for this because you have the people who follow her, the people who are part of a certain niche and demographic, all the people on the left, really. They came at her and they said, of course, all of these bombastic insults and how this was degrading the rights of specific people in the LGBT community. And Anna said nothing of the sort that was degrading to them. She was just verifying that she was a biological woman, and that is how she wants to be represented in this world. And that is very different than people in those other groups that she didn't even mention, she wasn't criticizing. Now, she has some common sense here, but here's what the kicker is. She's part of a media organization, the Young Turks, who is heavily on the left. And everything that they talk about, their ideals, their concepts, the information, a lot of it is embellished, but a lot of it is just wrong information. A lot of it is the wrong ideology, the wrong philosophy. You have the right to say it, you have the right to express yourself, you have the right to share it with your demographic. But oftentimes people on the left don't understand when you're spouting something. Now, there's different ways you can spout this information. You may actually not be able to connect the dots yourself properly in a way that is congruent with the truth. You may be connecting the dots incorrectly. And so that is really a whole different situation. But also, if you're intentionally and purposely embellishing the truth, if you're saying something that you know is not true, or you're not doing your due diligence, intellectually speaking, and you're just saying whatever comes to mind, you're ranting, you're not really gathering information, gathering different multiple perspectives, putting it together, sitting down, using judgment, critically thinking, and then coming out with the proper information to inform the world. Well, that's on you. That's your responsibility. And ultimately, a lot of these people do it because they get attention, they get fame, status, wealth. But then it comes back and it bites them because now they can't even say something where maybe they have a moment of clarity, a moment of common sense and truth, and they tweet something out like, look, I'm a woman. This is very different than those other groups. Look, we all have rights, but this is a very different thing. These are two separate categories. Now those people who you've been talking to for years, they come at you and they attack you because you've been telling them how to think. And now when you have a change in clarity and it's no longer aligned with their form of ideology, of course they're going to come and attack you. So this is more of a PSA, public service announcement, to all the people. If you are connecting the dots properly, then this is slightly more malicious. But if you're not connecting the dots properly, you need to connect the dots properly. You need to do a lot more work, especially if this is part of your livelihood. You should be wanting to pursue truth. You should be wanting to say the truth that's out there. I know we live in a censorship digital age where everything we say is taken out of context, or we're canceled or suppressed or oppressed to a degree with our individual rights. But if more and more people come together and they're chasing the truth, and they work together, they cooperate, they're not at odds with each other, because that oftentimes creates more status and more wealth, they will at least create a better society. See, when you're going out there like Anna Kasparian, or just the Young Turks in general, people on the left, a lot of people on the left will say incorrect information, and they know that they're saying incorrect information. Again, they can be ignorant, but a lot of times they're malicious. They just don't care about the end results because they don't think it's going to come back to haunt them. Now you have a situation in the future that could personally affect you by your own work, by your own admission. And so if you've been doing work for years and you think you're protected, kind of like how these mayors in these liberal cities let riots ensue and they don't stop these riots, or they allow criminals to get out of violent crimes, they allow petty theft, and they think, the mayors think, they're protected because they have armed security, they have the police force defending themselves. At a certain point, that threshold can get broken, and then the mayor is vulnerable. So if you're not thinking about the long-term consequences and the long-term repercussions, you're going to be caught potentially, okay, a lot of people get away with it, but you're going to be caught in a situation that is not ideal for you in the future. It could be 1 year from now, it could be 10 years from now, or it may never happen, right? There are people who get away with a lot of malicious activity, unfortunately. But if, just to use the same example, you would want to be the mayor who has law and order, who allows individual rights to be protected, who allows businesses to be protected so there can't be petty theft. And then you keep that city, you're preserving individual rights, but you're getting rid of crime, you're getting rid of criminals. And so that crime can never touch your doorstep. but you're first and foremost protecting the people who can't defend themselves. And when you do that, you're actually defending yourself as well, right? So your self-interest needs to go beyond just thinking 6 months out. They need to go beyond just thinking 1 year out. And so if you're someone who's preaching information out there, you have to do your due diligence and consume a lot of, like, this is a lot of work. You have to consume a lot of information. You have to sit down and actually think. Sometimes if you need to meditate on it, you need to meditate on it. And you need to come up with different perspectives. You need to challenge your own beliefs. You have to have your ideas conflict with other ideas and see which one wins in a meritocratic system. This could all be in your head, right? Then when you go out there and you preach information, at least you're not corrupting society in a way that is making society degrade and go downhill. Because when you are making money, when you're gathering fame, but you're corrupting society or your demographic to the wrong form of thinking, to the wrong way of looking at things, it could be something as simple as you're teaching people to be victims rather than victors. So you're giving them a victim mentality to adopt rather than a mindset of, I can go out and do this on my own. Are there things that are against me? Are there obstacles? Are there systems in place against me? Potentially. But that shouldn't be, you should be able to fight through those obstacles and actually find opportunity and make yourself valuable in this world. And there are rewards to that. If you give your demographic, in this example, the wrong mentality, eventually that could come back to bite you. That could come back to haunt you. You may not foresee how it could haunt you, but it's always a potential. And the bigger and bigger you get, and the more wrong you put out there, and the bigger your audience gets, this is a huge liability. And then at the very least, you would be embarrassed. That could just happen short term. You may be on Twitter, you may be on YouTube, you may be in an interview. You're not really respected by the people who actually matter in this world. Other people who are intelligent, who know what's going on, people with connections, people with a network. There are people who will look at you and say, this person is either ignorant or malicious, and he or she is not going to be anywhere near my team. They may be friendly to you, they may be acquaintances with you, but you'll never be in that group. You'll never connect with other people in a genuine, authentic way because you're being malicious, or maybe you're just ignorant. In both cases, you need to find salvation in that. So what I mean by that is, if you're malicious, that's a lot worse than being ignorant, because you know the information and you're not willing to put out the right perspective. And so that now becomes an ethical, moral situation. From an ignorant point of view, you're just not putting in the work. You're not putting in the work to find the right information. You're not gathering different perspectives. You're not listening. You're only listening to people in your dogmatic, narrow point of view. You're not listening to everyone. There's a lot of content you have to go through. You have to filter through a lot of content. But if this is your job, or if this is something that you want to do, if you're going to talk to a large audience, the bigger you get, the bigger your audience is, you have more of a responsibility. You have more power, but you have more of a responsibility. And if you want to do people good, if you have good faith about you, that is something that you should ultimately do. Now, a lot of people don't care about that. They're going to keep doing what they're doing. That's when other people are going to come in and hold you accountable. And it may not look like a lot of people are going to hold you accountable, but at a certain point, you'll have big players, which you don't need a lot of them. You just need a few of them. They're going to come in. They're going to hold you accountable. It's similar to like when you work at a job, let's say you're making 50 to 75K a year, and you have certain tasks that you need to do, and you take shortcuts on the task because you want to save a little bit of time. Now, it's one thing to be really efficient and get the job done quicker than anticipated. It's another thing to take shortcuts, and now you're putting liability on the company. So you may not hear anything. You may get away with it for a few months, a couple of years. At a certain point, that liability becomes so big that if it does come back and it's made aware of, you are now in huge trouble. I mean, there's a lot of things you can go on to about that. It could be financial, legal, like there's a lot of liability there. So I say that example to really point out the idea that there are unfathomable ways in which this could come back to bite people. Sometimes it's trivial, sometimes it's major. But this is why you got to cross your T's and dot your I's. You have to do the work. There's no way around it. But also, this is a PSA to people who are listening to people like this, to showcase that, look, I understand there's a lot of indoctrination. There's, cultural indoctrination, cultural degradation. If you are in the minority and you're trying to wake up and help other people wake up, and you notice that there are people who are not acting in good faith, or they're saying the wrong information, or they're just not putting in the work because they don't want to gather multiple perspectives. They want to do a show, talk for 30 minutes, and then mess around for the next, the later half of the day. If you got family and kids and all that, fine. But if you're doing this, if you have a platform, this is what you should be focused on. There's a lot of people who are out there who are putting in a lot of work, and they have families, they have kids, but they understand that the work that they're doing is so important. They need to have the truth come out, and they can't screw up. Now, we're all humans. We're going to have flaws. We're not going to be perfect 100% of the time, but we can do our best. It's when people are not doing their best, they know that they're not putting in the work, and they have a huge platform, and there are a lot of people who are part of that platform who are listening to these people as demagogues. So I'm talking to both people here. If you're in the audience, this is probably going to affect you more, where you can wake up, you can be privy to the truth, and you can actually break out of that and gain different perspectives. Even if it's just you stumbled on this video by accident and you are listening to this far in the video, go and see other perspectives. Even if you're already consuming a lot of leftist content or right content, view different perspectives. There are so many different perspectives out there. To get to the truth, you really have to go through all the perspectives. And even then, sometimes the truth is not in any of those perspectives. You have to sit down and come up with you have to be able to connect the dots in your head. Most people are not able to do that. That's why they go and they listen to talking heads. They listen to CNN. They listen to Fox News. If you're able to develop that skill on your own, you not only become a valuable asset to other people, but you become a valuable asset to yourself.